Peace and power, brother.
Hey, what's happening, family? It's your man, Mark Black. Welcome to the Hump Day discussion. Happy Hump Day to all of you, right? Yeah, hey, we gonna talk about it all. You know what I'm saying? Everything, blase, skippity, woo, woo, right? To give DVM the love, you know what I'm saying? Fam, this one's important. So if you haven't already done so, please make sure to share, right? Hit the thumbs. I don't care if it's the like or the hater button, but hit the thumbs. Make sure you share this one, right? We're going to have a discussion today. And it's one that might be scary to some of you. And I'm warning you in advance. But if I do my job, you won't be. All right. So before we get started, though, one thing I want to make sure to note going forward, fam, any resources that are utilized during a broadcast will be in the comment section of the video after the broadcast is done. So you'll actually have links to the same resources that I use for research, for providing you information, and any information that I show on the teaching screen and things like that. You'll have access to that all in links in a comment in the comment section of the video after the broadcast. Okay, that's not including the links to the various resources and things like that. That's sort of ongoing stuff that I have in the description. But anything referred to during a broadcast will be available after the broadcast via links in the comment section. So make sure that you pay attention. All right. Second of all, fam, support your work. I had the pleasure today of watching an interview with Dr. Tommy Curry. As you guys all know, I'm a huge advocate for Black masculinity studies, things that affect my brothers and I specifically. And Dr. Tommy Curry is a tribal treasure. And I made sure to not only show my love by forwarding his work, by studying his work, but by also contributing to his work, contributing to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's efforts to bring out the message. Fam, media costs. Whether it's through watching ads or whether it's through you maybe paying a subscription fee or contributing, media has a cost. Support your interests. If you find my work to be salient, valuable, important, of use, support that. There are multiple links to do that. There's the super chat if you have any important statements or questions that you'd like for me to address immediately and also to show your support. There's also my Patreon. Please take advantage of that. One time per month. That definitely helps, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, without further ado, let's get into the greetings. Let's see here. We have Darker Visions in the house. Peace. Happy Hump Day to you, Black Man 903. Peace to you, fam. Happy Hump Day to you. Sister Shawnee's in the house. Big Poke Dog right from the get-go with the love. Peace and power to you as well, brother. Engaging Black in the house. Sister Alma in the house. Right? Cool Unc is in the house. Happy Hump Day to all of you. Sister Alexis. We back at it again. Welcome. Happy Hump Day to you. Brother John, namaste. Welcome to you and happy Hump Day to you. Ebony is in the house. Hello, sister, and happy Hump Day to you. Hotep to Brother Asar. Welcome to the broadcast. We see you. Miss Denny's in the house. Peace to you, sister. Name again is in the house. Miss Virgo is in the house. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, fam. So today, fam, we need to talk about the virus in the room. All right. And no play on words this time in the title of the broadcast, right? Normally I try to come up with some clever shit. Most of y'all never get any damn way, right? For the title of the broadcast, right? But this one is straightforward, right? We need to talk about the outbreak of coronavirus. Okay. Now, many of you, especially those of you who are more conspiracy minded, have your ideas already as to what the coronavirus is. I'm not going to talk about whether it was engineered in a lab, whether, it's a Chinese bioweapon, or whether it's the Americans that attacked the Chinese with a I don't do conspiracies. We have no evidence of that we can stand on, and it's useless conjecture. I don't do useless conjecture. What we do know is that coronavirus is here. It is a type of retrovirus, and it is spreading across the globe, fam, at a rate that, to be quite honest, is very concerning. We always have this saying, fam, that when white folks catch a cold, black folks get pneumonia, right? So we need to discuss what we as a tribe need to be on right now. Because for many of us, the reason why we tend to embrace these conspiracy theories and these rampant conjectures is because of our lack of information, right? Whenever there's a lack of information, people start slotting in what they think are facts, okay? And we're going to talk about the facts today. All right, as we understand them currently. Of course, with new information, new data comes new actions and new initiatives, new ways of doing things. But as of right now, we're going to talk about what we know, what the possible effects of what we know are, and what we can do to address the situation as we're able. All right, because knowledge dispels fear, family. Never forget that. Many times we're afraid because we don't know. So the more we know, the less fearful we have to be. That's why I told you this topic may be fearful for some. But if I do my job right, you shouldn't be, because I'm not. All right. I'm telling you right now, Mark Black is not afraid of the outbreak of coronavirus or anything else. And we're going to go over why you shouldn't be afraid. OK, but before we do that, let's go over the information. Yes, Shani, AIDS is a retrovirus, but retrovirus is just a type of virus. It has to do with the mechanism by which the virus infects other cells, right? So that don't get hung up on the whole retrovirus thing. Yes, AIDS or HIV is also a retrovirus. However, there are families of retroviruses. Influenza is a retrovirus, right? Corona or beta coronavirus is also a retrovirus. Yes, Trump did just hold a press conference on the virus, and we're going to talk about that too. Because, see, family, one thing that we have learned as a people in this country, right, as the Black Americans that we are, as Native Blacks, is that whenever you see the government trying to get on top of something, it is definitely something of concern. When they're trying to downplay it, right? We as Black people understand this better than anybody. When the government is trying to downplay something, it's more serious than they would like to let on. But they want to make sure to not cause panic. So with that said, let's get to the teaching screen, okay? Let me bring up some information here that is going to help us out. This is, family, the WHO, World Health Organization website. Again, all links to resources will be in the chat. Not in the chat, but in the comment section of the video after the broadcast. The Director General of the WHO addressed COVID-19, right? So coronavirus 19 is the scientific or designator for this particular strain of coronavirus. This was today. Okay. Now, the WHO basically indicates here, and I highlighted it here, some of the cases that are outside of China. We know now that there are increases of cases of the virus in Iran, in Italy, in Korea. We also know that there are now cases in Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, and Oman. There are also cases in Algeria, Austria, Croatia, Germany, Spain, and Switzerland that are linked to Italy, meaning that they've been able to pinpoint that Italy has seen the branching out of infections of coronavirus to these various nations. Okay? And here's the thing, right? WHO has said here that they've already declared a public health of emergency of international concern, their highest level of alarm. Here's something to note, fam. This is basically the WHO indicating that this is pandemic. Now, what does pandemic mean? Let's look it up real quick, shall we? Pandemic. Pandemic is an epidemic of disease that has spread across a large region or worldwide. That's essentially what pandemic means, okay? Now, the reason why they have not designated this a term of pandemic is because once they announce that it's a pandemic, according to the Director General of the WHO, using the word pandemic carelessly has no tangible benefit, but does have significant risk in terms of amplifying unnecessary and unjustified fear and stigma and paralyzing systems, unquote. It may also contain, quote, that we can no longer contain the virus, which is not true. We are in a fight that can be won if we do the right things, unquote. So essentially, fam, they're saying it's a pandemic, but they don't want to use the word pandemic because people freak out about the word pandemic, right? Thus increasing the panic, increasing the fear, right? And also it will then have a definitive effect on various systems around the globe. Thus, the refraining from the using of the term pandemic. But this is a pandemic, fam, in all but name. Now, again, we're not using that word so that we go, oh shit, it's a pandemic, we're all gonna die. No, pause. Pandemic just means that the disease has spread. The illness has spread through multiple continents and is on its way to being worldwide. That's what a pandemic means. Words have meaning, okay? No panicking among the herd, all right? We angry black sheep, we don't panic. We understand, all right? So, what are some of the effects, fam, of a pandemic? Well, one of the first things that you're going to see is economic hits. Why? Because we live in capitalism, right? Under a capitalist system, everything is economic. Your ass sitting here breathing is of profit to somebody, right? So the very first things that you're going to see the mainstream media talking about is economic effects. So one of the first economic effects we've seen is the stock market is starting to take a hit. As you can see in America here, the S&P 500, we've seen the stock market take a hit over the last few days. Pause. Does this mean that the economy's collapsing? No. But what this does mean potentially for us, fam, is that growth that America was depending on to keep the economy from sliding into recession, that's going to be a potential issue. We may actually see the United States economy slide into a recession. And recessions, fam, are primarily a function of supply and demand, right? In a recession, demand is down because supply is down. Ms. Kawami said she's been hearing that we are somewhat immune to it. Have I heard that? I have heard that. I'm going to let it read out.
I've been hearing that we are somewhat immune to it. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have, Miss Kwame. Thank you for the question and thank you for the love. Yes, I have heard that. There was a story. Now, I can't attest to the provenance of this story, but I did read a story of a little black child that was infected by coronavirus that did not get sick. In other words, it was confirmed that they were infected with the coronavirus, but they were asymptomatic and they ultimately did not experience any negative effects from their infection. Now, that having been said, them being asymptomatic is actually a problem because asymptomatic people can be carriers of the virus. In other words, this child could still have transmitted the virus to other people who would then express the symptoms of coronavirus infection. But she herself did not appear to have gotten sick from coronavirus, right? So yes, I will say that I have heard that we're not immune to it, but that we can be infected with it, meaning us, and not actually develop the symptoms of a coronavirus infection. I have heard that. Great question, by the way, Ms. Kwame. So we see the stock market taking a shit, right? Now, this, of course, is not going to just be the United States. This is globally, because one of the reasons why the stock market, no problem, sister, one of the reasons why the stock market is taking a hit is because of this. Because of the issue with disruptions in the supply chain. Now, what's the supply chain? Right? This is a report. I'll put a link to it if you're interested in this sort of thing, right? Because it's talking about specifically from the electrical standpoint of view. But I brought it up because I want us to understand and talk about what the supply chain is. Basically, fam, the supply chain is the systems in place that make sure that goods get from the point of manufacture to your home. That entire system is called the supply chain. Now, why is this important? Because in America, pretty much everything we can think about comes from China. And right now, China's on lockdown. Not just Wuhan, right? Not just the province that Wuhan is in, right? China itself is locked down. I've been seeing video of entire cities where it's just quiet. People aren't going to work. People are not out on the streets. You got the Chinese government there with roadblocks, testing people for fevers, for symptoms of infection with coronavirus, and so on and so forth. Well, how do you think that's going to affect our supply chains? We don't have products coming out of China, meaning that wholesalers, jobbers don't have access to those products to then offer to retailers, which means that retailers don't have those products to offer to you. Supply chain disruption, fam, is an issue. And it is, if this thing continues to become a major problem, will be an ongoing problem if this becomes a global pandemic. Right? We have traditionally a flu season, but we don't know if coronavirus is bound by that. We don't know that if weather is changing, weather changes and things like that will affect transmission rates of coronavirus. We don't know. So with the disruption in the supply chains that we've already experienced and with potential issues in the supply chain moving forward, there's a lot of things that you take for granted are going to be available to you that are not. Part of the reason why they have not used the word pandemic is because the moment the CDC, I'm sorry, not the CDC, the moment that, well, the CDC as well, but the moment that the WHO and the CDC comes out and acknowledges that this is a pandemic, fam, things that you expect to be available are going to fly off of the shelves in stores. Meaning you're going to go in thinking that you can get some groceries and certain foods that you've been used to eating won't be available. That is, if your stores are even open. I live in an area here in the Pacific Northwest that actually had one of the first cases of coronavirus. It was a person that flew in from China, right? What exactly will not be available? That depends, fam. It could be food products. It could be medicines, right? It could be hygiene products such as toilet paper, coffee filters, you name it, right? When supply chains are disrupted, it has a knock-on effect, right? Because let's say that there's a manufacturer that manufactures, say, plastic. Okay, they just make beads of plastic that can be used in extrusion machines to make plastic products. Well, now, if that supplier is no longer able to make plastic beads for extrusion, then that means that anybody that manufactures plastic products won't have access to that. And that has knock-on effects for packaging, for materials, and so on and so forth. So to answer that question, what exactly will not be available is difficult because supply chain disruptions can affect things you wouldn't think would be affected simply because maybe it's China. You get where I'm coming from? And yes, the population is pretty heavy out my way. I think the greater Seattle Tacoma area has close to 10 million people in it, right? So yeah, population here is crazy. Now, fam, so with the disruption in supply chains, that's going to affect food availability, medicine availability, and so on and so forth. This is why your brother, Mark Black, your fellow angry black sheep and the brother, the one who loves you, wants us to get ahead of the curve, right? We need to get ahead of the wave. While they're still buying time, while they're still not calling this a pandemic, we can understand that, yes, this is a pandemic. Does that mean that it's the end of the world as we know it? Nah. But does this mean that there is some effects that have started and will continue as long as this is at pandemic levels of infection? Yes. That's exactly what this means. And I, for one, intend to see my people not only be able to prepare, but to prosper as best I'm able. This is why it's important, family, you support your media. Because we're going to give you stuff that everybody else won't. They'll tell you, be calm, Negroes. We've got it under control. Everything is fine. But do you trust them to tell you that, or do you trust me? I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I can research just as well as the rest of them. I can get information just as well as the rest of them, and I can bring it to you in a way that makes you understand exactly where we are without panicking you to death, without having you shaking in your damn boots, so that you can be mentally, physically, and financially prepared for what's coming down the pike. That's what we're all about today, fam. That's what we're talking about today. The virus in the room. Now, so with that having been said, fam, let us go to some information. I want us to consider, all right, because I can't force you to do anything, but I want us to consider the next 60 days. Let's say that coronavirus is affected by seasons, by the change of seasons, which, believe it or not, is more likely than not. We don't know, but it's a distinct possibility. That means that for at least the next 60 days or so, we can expect to be seeing additional infections of coronavirus. But let's say that it does turn truly into a massive global pandemic. Then, fam, we need to be prepared for that. So I am sharing with you my information that I'm using right now. As a matter of fact, when this broadcast is over, I will already be acquiring this list of things that I want to share with you. And by the way, fam, this list of things, I'm going to leave this up here, and I'm going to also post it in its own separate post in the comment section underneath the video. Fam, this is a list of things that we as Black people should have at a minimum of 60 days, but at least a year, just on GP. Just on GP, right? Just cuz, okay? This is a list of things that we should have for each individual in our respective households at a minimum of 60 days, but on GP for at least a year. We lose jobs. We have to move. We get evicted. We have shit happen to us, fam. And how many times have you wished when you lost your job that you had some food in the cabinet, right? That you could take some damn headache medicine when you're stressed out and you got a headache. Fam, let's be smart. This isn't bootstrapperism. This isn't do-for-selferism. This isn't none of that. This is just common sense preparation for things that could affect you and yours, right? You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to be like, Mark Black's fear mongering. Fam, you should just have this type of stuff just as a matter of course. Okay, so let's go through the list. First of all, I have listed here food items, okay, because food is paramount. Let's talk about nutrition. In order for you to maintain your body weight and your body integrity, there's one thing, nutritionally speaking, you're going to absolutely need. And that one thing is protein. Now, there are a multitude of proteins your body makes when it has available amino acids, but there are also essential proteins that your body cannot make, that you have to take in from food, right? Beans in combination with grains will give you a complete basis of proteins, of essential proteins. So if you take a combination of any legumes and you take a combination of most grains and you prepare them together, you can be assured that you are getting adequate protein nutrition. Okay? So beans, family, whether your favorite bean is navy beans. I love personally navy beans. Pinto beans are really good. You can take and boil navy beans or pinto beans. You can take and mash them and make refried beans, which will also give you fats. I forgot to list that there actually. Give me just a second here. Right, you need some oils, okay? But navy beans combined with, say, rice is a complete protein, and it's all plant-based. So even if you can't necessarily afford to have any meat, let's say that you had a power outage, right? And the meat in your refrigerator spoiled. Having dried beans and having grains and so on and so forth to give you a complete protein. We'll get there, Adric. Water is absolutely necessary. But again, I prepared this list in mind with the fact that this isn't the end of the world as we know it list, okay? Water would definitely be number one on the list. Matter of fact, if it makes my black sheep happy, water goes number one. I agree 100%. Water goes number one. And we'll talk about methods and means, by the way, Adric, of addressing the water piece. I have that later on in the list. All right. So get you some beans. Lentils are great. Lentils you don't have to soak, fam. Did you know that? If you have a bag of lentils, you don't have to soak them like you would, say, navy beans or Great Northerns or something like that. Yes, Great Northerns is good eating. Kidney beans, great eating. Okay, right? Navy beans, wonderful eating. I love me nothing more than to have me some good bread and some navy beans. That's a meal right there. By the way, bread is also a grain. So you take your bread and you eat it with your navy beans, you get a complete plant-based protein right there to keep your body and soul together. All right. Grains like rice, different flours, pasta. Instant potatoes is wonderful, fam. I don't know about you, but I'm not a huge fan of instant potatoes, except when I ain't got them. When I ain't got them and I need them, instant potatoes, fam, will fill you the hell up. And all you need is water. If you actually happen to have some butter, which, by the way, fam, butter's a great oil to store because contrary to what you might believe, you don't need to refrigerate butter. You don't need to refrigerate it. So you can actually buy pounds of butter at the store and store it away in your refrigerator. But if the power goes out, you can still use that butter. Yes, Shawnee, there will be this list in the comment section of the broadcast when the video is done. Right? Another thing to consider, family, is getting powdered milk. Or if you got the bread, right? Powdered milk, or if you got the bread, condensed milk. No, you good, Shawnee. You're not interrupting. This is the discussion we need to have. Ask your questions. And if it's a question that you really want to put some emphasis on, family, you know what to do. Hit the super chat, okay? But powdered milk, you can usually find it in a box, right, in the store. It'll be on the bottom shelf because it's not popular. But non-fat powdered milk, fam, is amazing. You can actually make cottage cheese with non-fat powdered milk. You can make cheese with non-fat, or cheese curds with non-fat powdered milk. Thank you for the, Darker Visions said quinoa. And also there's another grain I'll put on there too. Give me just a second here. Amaranth grain is also a complete protein grain too as well. So adding that with beans is just ensuring that you're straight. Let me fix this real quick. I want to make sure that we can see this whole list. There we go. With powdered milk, fam, powdered milk is fantastic. First of all, powdered milk is protein. Straight up and down, protein, okay? And if you can get condensed milk, there's even fat in it too as well. But powdered milk is just so damned handy. You can use it for flavoring. You can use it for cooking. You can use it for so much, right? And by the way, in the comment that I'm going to put up of this list, add to the list. This is our project, fam. We need to make sure that we inform our people. So if you come up with something else, whether it's a new grain or something else that you want to add to the list, let's keep that damn thing running. I grew up on powdered milk myself, Alma, right? We used to get it as a part of commodities. Back in the day when you had government cheese, you eat the government cheese, you get the powdered milk. Oh, yeah. I grew up on powdered milk. It wasn't the best tasting, but one thing you can do with powdered milk, fam, is you can take some raisins, just regular raisins, mash them raisins up and mix it in with your powdered milk. It gives it a little sweetness and a little flavor, and it tastes really good. Your kids will drink it. Speaking of fruit, consider getting canned or dehydrated fruits, specifically if you can, oranges, lemons, lemon juice, lime juice, things like that. Why? Because of vitamin C. Vitamin C is vitally, vitally important. I do, Adric. Let me get you the link to the PayPal here. Give me just a sec. I will grab that for you, fam. And thank you for asking. I really do appreciate you. There actually should be a link to my PayPal in the description field of the video, but if there isn't, I understand. I will make sure to address that. Sorry, give me just a sec. Thank you, by the way, everybody, for your patience. I really do appreciate it. Here we are. I'll just pop that in the chat for you. Absolutely, no problem. Okay, so back to the list here. Vitamin C is of vital importance, fam, especially over long-term periods, right? You can eat plenty of protein. You can eat plenty of fat. You can eat plenty of sugar. Don't have vitamin C and see what happens to you. It's hugely important. But don't worry, fam, even if you can't get any type of citrus fruit like lemon juice or whatever the case may be, we're going to address other ways of getting the vitamins you need too as well. All right. So, family, you also want to make sure to have some sugar. Sorry, but food fatigue is a thing. One of the biggest problems that when they've studied issues with famine, fam, what they found is that a lot of people during a famine, Black Man 903 said meals ready to eat. I don't suggest those, and there's a reason why. I love them. I actually am familiar with MREs, right? As a soldier, of course I would be, and they're fantastic. The problem is, Black Man 903, is MREs are expensive as fuck. They are hugely expensive. And trust me, right now, as we speak, any supplier of MREs, those things are flying off the shelves. Those are usually the first things to go if anybody's got money, because they're really handy, easy to prepare. And if you got bread, you don't count the cost. So I'm with you on MREs, fam. But what I'm saying is I'm not suggesting it because MREs are just too damned expensive. I'm not saying we broke, but I'm saying I'm putting together a list that even if you hardly got no money, you can still make it. We got to consider our audience, right? We got to consider our peoples, right? Make sure, fam, you get some sugar. And the reason why is that, fam, when they study famines, you know, the interesting thing they find is that in famine times, a lot of people don't necessarily die because there isn't food available. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. Famine means there's no food. Yes, a famine can be a shortage of food. But there can still be food available and people still die from starvation during a famine. Do you know why? Because science has discovered that we develop what's called food fatigue. If you eat the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, your body will actually start to reject it. Your body will start to tell you you don't want to eat it. In extreme cases of food fatigue, fam, you can actually experience nausea, meaning that you can't keep that food down even when food is available. So it is important that whatever foods you prepare, that you alter the tastes of them. You can still use the same base ingredients, right? If you have navy beans and rice, you can still use navy beans and rice. But you have to alter textures. You have to alter tastes. Otherwise, your body will fatigue on it and you'll stop eating it and you will starve to death. That's a real thing, food fatigue. Okay? I also suggest that people pick up yeast. Now, there are two types of yeast for those of you who are unfamiliar. There is quick yeast, right? Quick rise yeast, which is wonderful. It's easy. If you could get your hands on quick rise yeast, get it, right? But regular yeast, it still works just fine. It just doesn't work or activate as quickly as quick rise yeast. You usually see quick rise yeast in red packets or red bottles. You'll see regular yeast in blue bottles, okay? They're both perfectly fine. Get whichever one is cheapest that you can get your hands on, all right? The reason why I suggest that you get yeast is because if you have any type of flour, such as all-purpose flour, whole wheat flour, right, or other type of flours, you can use that yeast to make bread. You can actually, bake or make your own breads. I also recommend that you get baking powder too. Baking powder with flour and oil and water will let you make biscuits or other flat breads. Okay? So, family, salt, various seasonings, condiments are key. We just talked about food fatigue, right? Having salt, various seasonings. You need salt, by the way, fam. You need salt. So salt is a must. You should be having salt all over your house, right? But get other dried seasonings. Get turmeric, get parsley, cilantro, oregano, basil, thyme, rosemary. Also get stuff like cumin, coriander, cloves, star anise, or fam, some of y'all live in places that have like dollar stores and shit. Go in there and get spice mixtures. Get you like seasoned salt, things like that, right? Just some sort of way to change the taste of the food that you're eating. Condiments are also great too. Mustard never spoils. It's vinegar based. It doesn't spoil. And mustard is 0 calorie. You can use as much mustard as you want on anything, right? If you have different types of oils, like olive oil, if you can afford it, it's great for flavoring, right? Get vinegars. Vinegars will actually help you to preserve stuff too as well. You can steep things in vinegar and it will help you preserve things, okay? So get you vinegars. Oil and vinegar mixed with various spices is a great seasoning. Dry mustard, it's fantastic. Fam, we could spend the next hour just talking about different spices, condiments, flavorings that are cheap, that will help you to take the food that you have, your base food, right, your grains and your legumes, and help you to create meals out of them. And I also listed some oils here too. Canola oil, corn oil is great, especially for frying, right? Olive oil blends, right? You don't have to get extra virgin olive oil. That's bullshit. As a matter of fact, the blended olive oils or the non-virgin olive oils actually are better. They have a higher smoke temperature for frying. So let's say that you need to fry over a fire. You don't want to necessarily use canola because canola has a low smoke point. You use a blended olive oil, though, you can get your saute on. You can get your fry on. All right. Now, let's talk about supplements to your basics, right? So you have your water, you have your food in play. Okay. And again, fam, minimum 60 days. If we're preparing for the disruption of global supply chains, and I do mean global, at a minimum, for each person in your household, you want to have at least 60 days, enough to support them for 60 full days off this list, okay? So water and your food base. Make sure to get a multivitamin. I don't give a damn what multivitamin you pick, fam. Just get a multivitamin. Right? A multivitamin is going to back you up in areas where you're needing micronutrients like magnesium, potassium, so on and so forth, right? 2 multivitamin tablets per day can help you and your family to get the needed micronutrients that you need. Practice fasting is a good one, right? You don't need to eat every day, fam. I know that sounds crazy, right? But one thing I would recommend is that you practice not eating. I actually, on average, fast 4 days per month. I just will not eat the whole day. Or if I eat anything that's very minimal, like a broth or a soup of some sort, right? Alexis, I don't recommend that. And there's some reasons why. Because of the buildup of toxins back in your bloodstream that puts strain on your kidneys. And if you're already sick, because family, some of you might actually, and I hope not, but some of you may actually get sick with the coronavirus. And we're going to talk about what you can do if you do become infected with the coronavirus and what you can do for your family members that might be infected with the coronavirus too as well. I don't recommend that you drink your own. You can, but I don't recommend you do it. Okay. So a good multivitamin, 2 tablets. So if we're talking about a 60-day minimum, that means for each person in your household, you want to make sure that you have 120 tablets of multivitamin for 60 days. All right. I also recommend B12 supplementation. The reason why I recommend B12 supplementation is because when you switch from eating plenty of meat, right, to a more plant-based protein, one of the problems with plant-based proteins is that they don't necessarily provide you with B12 in any great amounts. Yes, there are plant-based sources of B12. Kale is high in B12 and so on and so forth. But just go ahead and spend a couple of dollars and get you a good B12 supplement. First of all, your body stores B12. So it takes you some time before you start running low on B12. But once you start running low on B12, fam, the neurological effects of low B12 are crippling. Just get a B12 supplement. All right. Make sure you have a B12 supplement available for you and your family. Vitamin C tablets, right? Ascorbic acid tablets are great for vitamin C. Also, too, a lot of people don't know this, but Kool-Aid contains vitamin C. Citric acid is a good source of vitamin C. If you drink Kool-Aid, which you should if you have some sugar, right? Get you some Kool-Aid packets and some sugar, and you combine that with a ascorbic acid tablet, and you'll have plenty enough vitamin C to help you out. Tang, again, John's hit it right on the barrelhead. Tang is another good source of vitamin C. I also recommend, family, that you get a source of vitamin D. Now, I'm recommending to you a dry form of vitamin D. Why? Because you can get dry D in higher international unit dosages than oil-based D tablets, right? Vitamin D is fat soluble. So if you buy vitamin D on the market, usually it'll come in little tablets that are filled with oil, right? However, the dosage is really low, usually like 500 or 1,000 IUs. That's international units of vitamin D. But if you get dry D, which is a little bit more pricey, you can get 50,000, sometimes even 100,000 IU tablets, meaning you take one vitamin D tablet a week and you're straight on vitamin D. If you live in northern climes like I do, right? I live up north where the sun during the day is, in the winter, you need vitamin D. I supplement with vitamin D. Otherwise, I'd be too damn depressed to do anything, right? Make sure you get a good vitamin D supplement. I recommend dry, but get vitamin D wherever you can. Now, let's talk about things that you can get that are going to help, period, across the board. Fam, if you're not a fan of garlic or onion, I can't help you. Garlic and onion, the alliums, are amazing. First of all, garlic and onion, both of, or I should say, those are our two primary alliums, but there are multiple alliums. But garlic and onion are great in that they have amazing antibacterial and antimicrobial properties, right? Fam, before I used to go camping out in the woods, for the 2 weeks before I went camping, I would take daily cloves of garlic and I would just eat them. I wouldn't chew them up because garlic fresh is really sharp. It can sting, right? So I wouldn't chew them up, but I'd give them a crush, you know what I mean? And I'd pop them in my mouth and swallow them like pills. I did that for 2 weeks before I go camping. When I went camping, no, not the vitamin D, the garlic. Darker Visions, the vitamin D is dry D. Shout out to Dark Child, by the way. Welcome to everybody, by the way, I have not greeted. Happy Hump Day to you and welcome to the broadcast. When I went out camping, after those 2 weeks of eating garlic, I did not get a single bite from a tick, not a single bite from a mosquito, and I didn't get sick either. I didn't catch a cold or anything while I was out there in the woods. Fam, garlic is a lifesaver, let me tell you. Let me tell you, it is one of the best foods that you can eat. Now, what type of garlic do I recommend you get? Well, if you can buy garlic in its raw form and store it away in a cool, dry place, like if you have sort of like a little root cellar type of scenario at your house, get it. Garlic is just phenomenal. But if you can't, try to get garlic like that and dehydrate it. And don't use a high temperature when you dehydrate it, fam. You want to keep the temperature as low as you possibly can. Keep it warm, but not hot. You don't want to disrupt the sulfur compounds that are the active compounds in all of the alliums, in your garlics, in your leeks, in your onions, and so on and so forth, okay? So get dehydrated garlic or onion, but get it. All right. Another herbal choice that I like is echinacea. Echinacea is fantastic, fam, for just general boosting of your immune system. I can't tell you why. I'm not a doctor. All right. But I know that I've used echinacea for quite a few many years. Many people that I do know use echinacea and it works a treat. All right. Ginger, raw ginger, is actually phenomenal. Phenomenal. It's not only good for flavoring, but it's a good health food. Ginger, fam, warms you. Ginger helps you to not get sick. If you take ginger and put a sliver of ginger in some tea, let's say that you get sick and you take a little bit of ginger and put it in your tea and you sip it, it'll help soothe those wounded membranes in your throat. Ginger is just phenomenal. And also, fam, if you can get your hands on some, get some peppermint. Peppermint is just fantastic. I personally don't like peppermint, but as something that will be helpful, peppermint is fantastic. Right? Let me read some of y'all's comments. Yeah. John, garlic is fantastic for a toothache. I almost said garlic saved my leg. I belong to the Church of Garlic. It's good to get. Yep, absolutely. Garlic is amazing, amazing, fam. I could if I could do just a broadcast on garlic, I would. It's just phenomenal. But ginger, family, is right up there with garlic. Between garlic and ginger, you basically have a natural medicine cabinet, right? If you also had a way of being able to address pain, such as like willow tree bark, right? Because willow tree bark is where they extract salicylic acid, which is the primary active ingredient of aspirin, right? Echinacea is fantastic for boosting your immune system. Again, I can't explain to you why. Anecdotally, as well as from some studies I've seen, echinacea does have an immune boosting effect. I strongly recommend it. All right, now let's get into some of the other things here, family. If you're out and about, take with you some of that hand sanitizer. I actually have some right over here. I meant to grab it before I came over to broadcast. But keep you some hand sanitizer with you. Not peppermint oil, unless it's food grade peppermint oil, Adrian. So yes, get peppermint oil, but make sure it's food grade, not just random ass peppermint oil. Okay. And understand that a little peppermint oil goes a long way. So even if you get food grade peppermint oil, understand you only need a little, right? Peppermint oil is also good, fam, when you're sick, like and you're congested as hell. If you take some boiling water and a wet towel and put it over your head and put a few drops of peppermint oil, that peppermint oil will come up and help open up your nasal passages to make you breathe better. Okay? Get you some hand sanitizer, fam, and start stocking up on some sort of antibacterial, antiviral spray like Lysol. Right? Family, I hit up my doorknobs. I hit up my door locks. I hit up around the edges of my cabinets where people open the cabinets to shut the cabinets, right? I hit up around the stools and the sinks in my house with Lysol. Lysol kills coronavirus. Did you know that? Yeah, Lysol has been proven to kill the coronavirus. So if somebody comes in your house and they're sick and they start touching all over stuff, you just hit up Lysol. And Lysol is great too because you can Lysol your sofas and couches where you can't use stuff like bleach, right? You don't want to bleach out your couches and things like that. So you take and spray everything down with Lysol. And that'll help kill the germs in your sofas, in your pillows. If you got pillows and blankets, family, wash them regular. I know this seems like it's crazy talk that I'm telling you, basic shit. But fam, in times like this, we need to understand that there are basic things to do. So there ain't no shame in me telling you to wash your pillows, wash your blankets, wash your pillowcases, right? And wash them in bleach water. Yes, even if they're colored, you can use regular chlorine bleach. You take and mix a cup of chlorine bleach, not even a cup, but take and mix a cup of chlorine bleach with 5 cups of hot water. Fill up your wash bin with your clothes, even with colored clothes. And then when that water is filled up, take and pour that water around the bin and work it through your clothes. And you won't bleach your clothes out, but you'll still have plenty of chlorine bleach in there to kill the germs in your clothes. It also kills the odors and shit, like if you get pitted out and stuff like that, right? I also recommend, family, that you lay in a store of alcohol, both isopropyl and if you're not an alcoholic like myself, right? Because I'm a recovering alcoholic, isopropyl alcohol at least. But if you can, lay in a store of ethanol alcohol too. What is ethanol? Booze. Now, don't take this as an excuse, fam, to run off to the store and grab you a thing of Tanqueray. No, leave the Hennessy alone. I'm talking about stuff like Everclear, right? 190 proof grain alcohol. Grain alcohol will still disinfect wounds just like isopropyl alcohol will, but grain alcohol will also let you steep stuff like ginger, like your echinacea, like your dried garlic, and make tinctures. And it allows you to take that tincture, and somebody can't swallow because their throat's shut. You can put a tincture of garlic or a tincture of echinacea right here. It's called subbucally, under the tongue. And that alcohol will get in the veins underneath your tongue, and it'll take the active ingredients of what's in it and soak it right into your bloodstream. That's why you want to consider getting some high proof ethanol, because it might allow you and your elders, if they're really sick, to take medicine when they can't swallow. A lot of people don't think about that. Okay? Get you some scrap paper, newspaper, preferably black and white. You don't want to necessarily be burning colored paper, right? Get you some scrap paper, okay? And get some wood. Why? Because, fam, we don't know if there's ever going to be an issue with power, right? But if there is, you could take one log of wood in a cast iron skillet. You could take it and cut it into sticks and make a small fire outside. Take you a little grate and put it on top and you can cook your family a meal. By the way, family, you can also use alcohol, ethanol, right, with a roll of toilet paper in a can. You can soak that toilet paper with the ethanol, put a lid with a slit on the top, and pull the paper out just slightly, light it on fire. That's an alcohol stove, fam. You can boil water. You can cook a meal off that little alcohol stove. All right? So lay in some scrap paper and some wood. Also, here's one thing most people wouldn't even think about. Lay in some coffee filters, fam. Coffee filters, why? Let's say we were talking about earlier, the first thing on the list. And what's the first thing on the list? Water. There's multiple ways of getting water, right? Depending on the area in which you're in. But the that water might be questionable depending on how you get it. But fam, you can purify water with chlorine bleach. That's right. Here, I'll show you. I actually pulled up. Give me a second here. I pulled up an article here that shows you emergency disinfection of drinking water. If you can, boil it, right? But if you can't, get unscented, no perfumes, no shit added, just regular chlorine bleach, right? And if you have 6% bleach by volume or 8.25% bleach by volume, 8 drops of 6% bleach or 6 drops of 8.25% bleach to every gallon of water, and you can purify your water. But family, you might actually need to filter that water first. And that's where your coffee filters come in, fam. You get you one of those little coffee holders, break apart an old coffee machine or whatever the case may be. Put your coffee filters in. Take your water that you've steeped with chlorine bleach and just pour it through the coffee filters. That'll filter out your water, and it's already purified from pathogens, and it's safe to drink. Family, I'm not ashamed to tell you, I've drank it out of toilets. I've drank in toilet water before, but I purified it. No, black man, you don't have to boil it too. If you're unable to boil water, you can actually purify water using chlorine bleach. This is why I'm telling you, lay in a store of some motherfucking Clorox, fam. Clorox ain't just to make your house smell good or to make sure that your whites look nice. Clorox might save your motherfucking life. And fam, think about it. You get an eyedropper. Eyedroppers are a few bucks at any, like your CVS's, Bartell Drugs, Osco's, you name it, right? Whatever little drugstores in your area, you can get eyedroppers for $2. A gallon of chlorine bleach, fam, will purify plenty of water for you and your family. That gallon of bleach, 1 gallon of bleach, will purify multiple hundreds of gallons of water. So just grab 2. And then you've got your water purification straight for an entire year. You can get paper filters, coffee filters at the dollar store. You can get 200 of them for $1. Buy you like 5 packs of them joints, cause they handy for all sorts of shit. You can strain stuff through them. You can strain oils. You can strain out, like you trying to make soups for your sick family and stuff like that, but you don't want them to get all the solids, just the broth. You can use your coffee filters for that. Coffee filters are just handy. That's right. Don't forget about y'all's for children's. Right? So get your hand sanitizer, get your Lysol, get alcohol, both ethanol as well as isopropyl, okay? Lay in scrap paper, newspaper, printer paper, just any paper that you can. You can use that for tinder, right? Bleach tablets are a thing too, Alexis. But here's the thing. Bleach tablets can be pricey. They're wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I love bleach tablets. When I was in the Army, we used to have access to bleach tablets for purifying water. They're fantastic, right? The problem is they can be a little pricey when you can just use Clorox. You can just use unscented regular Clorox, right? Yeah, exactly, Alma. If you take and you have water with bleach, sit it outside, you straight. But if you don't have the time, you could drink that water immediately and you'll still be fine. Now, family, I want to talk about a bit about prophylaxis, right? Prophylaxis just means what to do to treat somebody, right? When you have family members that are sick, whether it's with the common cold or the flu or the coronavirus, right? There are certain things that you're going to want to have done for you or that you're going to want to do to take care of yourself. The very first thing I would recommend, fam, is NSAIDs, right? Tylenol, ibuprofen, etc., right? Get your NSAIDs. Why? Because they will help break fever. They'll help reduce the potential damage to your brain from fever, right? People don't understand that fever kills in a multitude of ways, but the biggest way fever kills, especially in our elders and in our children, is through brain damage. When they get fevers that are too high and their body can't cool itself off, the brain starts to break down. And that's what kills our people. We don't need to have that. Give them NSAIDs, right? Help them to break that fever cycle, okay? Blankets are a fantastic thing to lay in. Fam, if you're like me, you love thrift stores, okay? You love thrift stores. Take your ass to the thrift store and pick, Goodwill, Value Village, whatever. By the way, peace to my brother Gab, my esteemed brother Gab. Welcome to the broadcast, fam. It's good to have you here. Pick up blankets, fam. Blankets. You can use blankets even in the summer for different shit, right? Like it gets hot in your house. Find a cool place in your house at night. Crack open the windows and make a pallet on the floor out of your blankets, grab your pillows and zonk the hell out. Blankets are just handy. But when you're sick, blankets help you to maintain your temperature because fever goes in cycles. You got a family member with fever. One of the first signs that they have fever is shivering. Their body temperature is elevated relative to their environment. So their body shiver response kicks in. Your family members will shiver. You're not going to overheat them per se by wrapping them up in blankets. You're going to actually help them. It's going to provide comfort for them. Do you understand? Blankets when you're sick with fever, which coronavirus does present with fever, is going to be super helpful. Okay? Now, on top of the things that we discussed previously with your garlic, your alliums, right? Your onion, your ginger, your peppermint and stuff like that, which is fantastic for prophylaxis, for flu, for the colds and stuff like that. Family, touch your people. Touch yourself or have somebody touch you. I'm going to have to do a discussion on it one day, but human touch is one of the most prophylactic things and healing things that you can do for any human being. You in there with your family member. Why are you scared to go in there and touch them? Because they sick. They actually need you to touch them. Now, that don't mean be all up in their face, fam. If they coughing and hacking and stuff like that, back away and make sure you do your prophylaxis, right? Touch, take care of yourself. But after you straight, your family needs your touch. Get some massage oil, some coconut. You can buy coconut oil at the dollar store now. You just dip your fingers in there, rub your hands in it, get it nice and warm, and just start rubbing your family body. Your baby's sick, rub their body. That shit is so calming to them. It's so relaxing to them. It reduces stress. It boosts the immune system. It improves mood. Most of the time people get sick. They get sick and they get sicker because their mood is fucked up. You're touching your family. You're improving their mood. You're helping boost their immune system. Get some massage oil and rub your peoples. Rub their arms, rub their legs. Take and rub their chests, especially if you got a little bit of peppermint, that little peppermint oil on their chest. Just a tiny little bit now. You don't want to overdo it, but a tiny bit and some coconut oil and rub that shit on their chest. Man, that shit, that feels good. Rub them around their neck and around their face. Rub their heads. Massage your peoples. And fam, give it time. Don't be trying to rush your people out of bed. You know what I'm saying? Don't be talking to them about, damn, you've been sick for 3-4 days now. Ain't you gonna get better? No, don't do that. Let your people recover, fam. Tiffany said, my husband had a heart attack several years back and I rub his legs with coconut oil often. Human touch is important. Fam, I would argue that of all the things on this list, human touch is right up, one of the things that's right up there at the top. If you alone, when you get sick and you can't have nobody touch you, the second best thing is to touch somebody else. If you have a pet, rub your pet. It's been proven that rubbing your dog, petting your dog, releases endorphins in your brain. It releases oxytocin, increasing your connection to your pet. And it does the same in your pet too. Because your pet's worried about you. They sense of smell and stuff like that. They can actually tell you're sicker than you can. Your pet worries. So if you don't have nobody to touch you, do the second best thing. Touch your pet. Maintain a good positive attitude, fam. No matter what happens, don't let these motherfuckers get you all scared about the supply chain and the economy. That stuff, if it's going to happen regardless of how you feel about it. But understand that you can make it, that we can make it, that we're going to get through this shit. Fam, they always want us as black folk to be afraid, because when we're afraid, we can't act. When we're afraid, we're paralyzed. When we're afraid, we see everything as taking a risk and we be overly conservative. And where we should be moving, we don't. Where we should be staying put, we don't. When you panic, you run where you should be standing still, or you stand still when you should run. We need broadcasts like this so that we can discuss amongst ourselves what will be helpful to us. Yes, this thing is an issue and it's likely to become a greater one. And best you know that now from a source that you can trust. They're not lying. They've said that this is everything short of a pandemic. They just won't use the P word. But trust me when I tell you, it is. And that list of items that I gave you, 60 days minimum. But start committing to laying in a store of those things for at least a year for each member of your family. I know it seems like it's expensive. You're like, damn, a year worth of food? How the hell am I going to buy a year worth of food? Fam, there's a lot of stores now that cater to people that are looking to buy food in bulk. Not only that, fam, but start learning how to utilize these foods. If you buy a year's supply, you're going to have to keep adding to it because you're going to have to rotate that food out. You're going to have to use that food. So you might as well start learning how to cook with whole grains. You might as well start learning how to cook with dry beans. You might as well start learning how to cook with non-fat or condensed milk. Right? Start learning how to use this stuff to prepare meals for your families. I want us to understand one important thing. Knowledge dispels fear. Whenever you're afraid, beloved, it's because you don't know. Seek out information from a source that you can trust. Ask questions. Fam, blackoutcastmedia@gmail is my address. If you're not following me on Twitter, you're failing already, right? Because that's where I primarily be on social media, is on Twitter. And that's at Black Outcast on Twitter. Hit my DMs. Shoot me an email. If need be, I'll give you my number so you can call. If you just need somebody to talk to, if you just need some advice, if you're just concerned or afraid, if I don't know the answers, we'll look for the answers together. I promise you that. I don't know everything, but I can promise you that I will help you get the answers that you'll need to keep your mind right, to keep your head straight. They're not going to always tell us the truth on shit, but that's okay. We already know what it is. We don't have to wait on them to tell us this stuff. Fam, there's an old saying, right? That if you get ready, you don't have to, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Fam, I gave us a tool today so that we can get ready, so that we can stay ready. If you're not already there, that's okay. I'm not going to chide you, fam. Now you have a resource. You can play this video back over and over and over again. I'll also put the list in the comment section. But I can tell you, the day that this society collapses, they're going to tell us that it's all sunshine and roses. Don't wait for them, fam, to tell you what's what. That's why it's important that we connect with each other. That's why it's important that we have these key discussions, that we're not fear-mongering each other, that we're not putting each other on blast, that we're not about beefing and drama and who's got more pull than who and who's got bigger numbers than who. This is why we got to have these discussions as family, as a tribe, so that we don't have to be dependent upon them to tell us what's what. We got brothers and sisters out here who spend all their time trying to figure out what's what. And they come and they bring it to you. Support them. Support yourself. This is what it's all about, fam. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't do this. Everybody is always trying to tell us what we can't do, what we can't do, what we can't accomplish. Niggas can't never do this. Niggas can't never do that. No, when you come here to the home of the angry black sheep, I'm here to tell you what you can do. I'm here to show you what you can do, what is possible. If you can't do it by yourself, do it with somebody else. None of this that I just told you means go out and try to do it all yourself. Get with your peoples, put y'all scrapple together y'all little bread and make this happen. This isn't hard. Scorpios, make sure you put that when the video's over, come back. There's going to be a comment with the list of different items. Make sure you add that turpentine gum spirits, right? If we get ready, fam, if we stay ready, we don't have to get ready. 425-296-1980 is the number, fam. You know what it is. This is where you get to call in and make your contribution. If you have something that I missed that you want to have on the broadcast, you don't feel like posting it in the comment, that's fine. Call in and tell us about it, right? If you have information that will help our family to calm their hearts so that their hearts aren't troubled, let us know, right? This is a dialogue. This is not me talking at you, fam. This is us having a get together. Because I'm only as great as you are, and you're only as great as I am. I need you. We need you. They got white folks out here fear-mongering like a motherfucker, you heard? Fear-mongering us to death and back. Oh, it's the end of the world as we know it. No, it's not. But can there be shocks? Yes. Yes, there could be some issues because of this. And we need to talk about this sensibly without all this conspiracy theory, fear-mongering bullshit. I don't care if this came from a lab. I don't care if you came from somebody eating the raw guts of a bat, like some people been talking about. I don't care about that. What I care about is that it's here. And it's going to likely have effect on my people and my nation. And I care about both. So I'm going to do what is best first for my tribe. But if this broadcast will benefit anybody else, have at it. 425-296-1980 is the number, fam. Matter of fact, let me go get some water real quick. Sorry, fam. I'm a little parched. Let's see what y'all talking about in the chat. Power in numbers. That's right. Apple cider vinegar is wonderful. As a matter of fact, it's my favorite vinegar. Try to get the apple cider vinegar that still's got the mother in it, though. Don't get the strained apple cider vinegar. Get the apple cider vinegar that still got that stuff in the bottom. That shit's amazing. Matter of fact, fam, taking your garlic along with some apple cider vinegar, if you sick, that shit'll clear you up quick than a mug. I'm not kidding you. Apple cider vinegar is good for so many things. Not to mention the fact that apple cider vinegar can actually help with wounds if you don't have any garlic available, or if you don't have any Band-Aids or something like that. Take a little strip of cloth and some apple cider vinegar and put that on your wound, and it'll help prevent infection too. If you get a cut or something like that and it gets dirty, you can debride it. That means to clean it, fam, with apple cider vinegar. It'll sting a bit, but it'll help out with keeping your wound clean and keeping you straight. Honey is amazing. Honey, too, also has antibacterial effects. Matter of fact, fam, between honey and garlic, if you're eating that stuff on the regular, you should not be getting sick all that often. That's real talk. They found honey in Tutankhamun's tomb. 3,500-year-old honey that they were able to reconstitute. And it's perfectly good. Perfectly good. Honey's amazing. Fam, there's people that talk about superfoods. Anybody out there in my herd, any of my black sheep that are a superfoods person that understands about superfoods, who want to call in? I got the number up and ain't nobody calling. That's right, Tiffany. Honey never rots. And honey's antibacterial. If you put honey on a wound, so take, like, let's say you get a cut across your arm, you take and dip in some apple cider vinegar to clean the wound, right? And around it, clean the hairs, stuff around it. Then you take honey and swipe that across the cut. You don't have to worry about no infection. You don't have to worry about no infection. You straight. You eating garlic. You clean your wound with apple cider vinegar. Cover it in honey and wrap it in cloth. You straight. You don't have to worry about shit. By the way, fam, while we edit, before I get a call, let me remind you that first aid classes are free in most cases. If you sign up at a local Red Cross, they'll teach you basic first aid, which will teach you how to apply gauze and bandages to wounds. That'll teach you how to do CPR. CPR is really easy these days. You don't have to do the breaths anymore. With CPR, it's just the compressions, right? It used to be, 30 compressions to one breath. But now you don't do the breaths anymore. You just do the compressions, right? They'll teach you how to do that type of stuff. They'll teach you how to tie a tourniquet. Basic stuff, but things that, again, the more knowledge you have, the less fearful you are. Right. Black man said, what is mother? Mother is basically the bacteria that turns vinegar into vinegar, but it clots together in like this, for lack of a better way to say it, like a clot. at the bottom of the bacteria, at the bottom of the vinegar, right? And it's called the mother because you can take a piece of that mother, right, with some grape juice or something like that, and you can put that mother in with the grape juice, seal it up, and make more vinegar from that mother. Or if you got some apple juice, you can make more vinegar from that mother. The mother's amazing. Fam, you also, if you can't afford to or don't know where you can get yeast, you don't even have to go buy yeast, fam. Take you some water and some flour, stir it up, and put it on a windowsill. You got natural yeast flying around you all right now. That yeast will get into that flour and water and it'll start to propagate. Where do you think sourdough bread comes from? Sourdough bread comes from natural yeast. That's how all our ancestors used to make bread. If they made leavened bread, all breads used to be sourdough breads. Tiffany, if you want us to shout you out, sister, if you got a storefront, let me know so we can get you some business. We take care of our own. We support our own. Calling from 832. It's your man Mark Black. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hi, Mark. This is Alexis. How are you doing?
Alexis, what's good, sister? Hey, I'm doing well now that I got a call. You know me. I get weird when I don't. Well, wait, what? No. Skype, you son of a bitch. Tiffany, call back. I mean, damn it. Tiffany. Alexis, call back in. I'm sorry. Skype is tripping. It just crashed, but we good. Call back in. Fam, it's amazing what we've forgotten. Like, we talk all the time about... Yep, here she goes. Sorry about that, Sister Alexis. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for taking my call. It's my first time calling in. Hello, chat. So, interesting topic today, as always.
Thank you, sister. I wanted to talk about something else other than bullshit, if you know what I mean, right? So...
Well, you know what? I'll say one little thing about this. People gonna say what the hell they want, right? Yeah. A lot of people talk out their ass and don't even know the argument behind their point.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So just brush it off, just brush it off your shoulders and keep doing what you're doing, because I think that you're doing a great job.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Of course. I mean, I'm not done talking by a long shot. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to take us to a different place. I want us to always be the place where people come and know that we're not just going to have a bunch of discussion about what's going on, but what can we do with what's going on, right? We're solutions based over here as the Angry Black Sheep, not problem based.
Because the echo chamber never does good for anybody.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that I don't want to call it a dissenting voice, but a different voice is needed, because a lot of times we can go into groupthink, and that doesn't do anybody any good either, because everybody starts thinking along the same lines, and nobody wants to break out of the box to think differently and maybe come up with a better solution to things, because we're all thinking one way.
You're absolutely right. You know what? I want to give a shout out, by the way, and a welcome to Sister Kimberly. Welcome to the broadcast. She said, my brother Mark is a pentamath. A pentamath is a person who wants to know and knows everything. Thank you for, Sister. That compliment actually has me choked up. Because it hits right on the barrelhead of what and who I am. I have no malice in me, especially when it comes to my people. All I want is for us to know, and I want us to know as much as we possibly can. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Sister Alexis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I do want to just say one thing about our topic tonight. So, and I actually said it in the chat. So I have been practicing intermittent and long-term fasting for probably about 3 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have found that if, things really hit the fan around here,
Mm-hmm.
and that we need to start implementing that, right? We need to start
I would agree with
implementing,
you. I would agree with
yes,
you. Now,
sustain,
wait,
yes,
may I issue a caveat, sister?
sure,
For our babies and for the old folks, I don't think that's necessarily as viable. I have my reasons why, because they're the two most vulnerable groups with this coronavirus outbreak. Most of the fatalities have been related to our elders and children,
hmm,
right? And they
right,
need food for the resources to help them to recover from the infection, right? So for us healthier folk, most definitely a fast will help knock this shit out like nobody's business. But for the more
right.
vulnerable, I would recommend that we don't.
Right, right. And even though those are two outlier groups that we need to be very much aware of, I think that they can also benefit from even just one 3-day fast resets your entire immune system. It's like it becomes brand new and is working on another level than it was before. So just
Absolutely.
3 days of water fasting. If you want to really get crazy with it, look up and educate yourself about hard fasting. So what a hard fast is that's no water and no food. Now that's not to be going on long term
Nope.
because we do need water. But with a hard fast, basically your body creates metabolic water. So it'll create the water that it actually needs to survive for that short term, but it basically like burns everything that's not supposed to be in you out because autophagy takes place and everything that's in your cells and in your body that is
Yes.
foreign and your body does not need, it basically eats it up. That includes viruses and all, parasites and everything like that. So I just encourage, the viewers in the chat to, if if you're not into fasting, to at least look up the benefits of it because we're used to eating every day, but we actually do not have to eat every day. That is one of our problems in modern society is that we eat too damn much, to tell you the truth,
You
because
know what?
it's
And
enjoyable.
that's actually scientific, sister. Science has shown that people who fast actually extend their lifespan. Right? We don't need
Yes.
to eat constantly. The people talk about, oh, you gotta have, three hots and a cut. No, you really don't. What our brothers and sisters in the NOI, shout out to them. I know Brother Gab is affiliated with the NOI, right? And they are strong advocates of one meal a day, sometimes one
Mhm.
meal every 2 to 3 days. If you read Elijah Muhammad's How to Eat to Live, he talks about
Mhm.
twice baked bread that helps with digestion. He talks about the navy bean and how nutritious the navy bean is, and combining bread and navy beans is complete plant based protein, right? He talks about
Mhm.
a lot of different things that even if you don't necessarily buy into necessarily the religious aspects of it or whatever the case may be, I'm a huge fan of How to Eat to Live, right? And it is a great
Yes.
book. I recommend it strongly because our brothers and sisters in the NOI understand the value of intermittent fasting. It strengthens the body, it keeps you strong, it keeps you healthy,
Mhm.
it just all the way around is a damn great way to operate.
Yes. I mean, in my family, we kind of laugh all the time because my grandmother lived until she was 92 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just as she went on during her years, I remember her saying this multiple times, and she would say it in a joking way. But now that she's gone, I realized that she was on to something. And she would always say, you would offer her food and she would say no. she would decline the food, and she would say, she would say something to this fact. She would be like, I only eat enough so that my stomach doesn't go on to eat my intestines. You know what I mean?
You know what your
So
grandma sound like somebody I would have kicked it with. She's basically saying I just eat just enough to keep the hanks off, right? so you're
yes,
not so you're
yes,
not just ravenously hungry. You see what I'm saying? Yeah,
right, right.
absolutely.
And then fasting it builds discipline in other areas of your life. You'll find, and I know that not everybody in the chat, and even you, because you say that you're an atheist, but whatever spiritual belief that you believe in, fasting can help you connect to that even more because it opens up pathways for you. Because
Oh,
a
what are
lot
you
of
talking
times
about,
we're
sister?
just
Just because I'm an atheist, trust me, I appreciate the various spiritual technologies that are out there that are available to help better me, to make me a better human being. And fasting is one of the every religious tradition that I'm aware of says that there are times
fast.
for bodies to be active and there are times for bodies to rest, right? Fasting is a type
Right.
of rest.
Right, right, right. And
Yeah.
I only say that because I know that we have, a lot of different beliefs in the chat and ask for you. So, I'm not a proponent of pushing anything
Oh,
on
no, no,
anyone. That I
sister.
just,
Everybody's
yeah,
religion is welcome here, including those that don't have
of
one.
course.
And besides, like I said, there's benefits with that some of our religious brothers and sisters bring to the table that we atheist brothers and sisters need to appreciate. There are things like meditation,
Yes.
invocation, fasting, and things like that that actually benefit us, whether you have a belief in any particular deity or not. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, now,
Right.
one thing I will say is this. I'm with Adric in that I don't propose fasting as a cure for anything, right? Fasting does not cure you. Fasting can help, right? But your body's immune system does have to have some resources in order to work, which is why we need to focus more on nutrition and prophylaxis before we get sick. Things that we can start eating and adding to our diets now, such as our alliums, such as ginger, such as various herbs and spices and things like that that help, because food is medicine per Galen, right? Galen, the old ancient Greek doctor, said food is medicine,
Mhm.
right? Food is
Yes,
medicine.
food is definitely medicine, and it's good
Exactly.
that you're mentioning all the supplements. But do realize that if anybody even has a little junk in their trunk that they're trying to get rid of,
Yeah.
that fat, that you have the ability to fast. So if you're underweight, I would not suggest this. But if you're at normal weight or even overweight, I suggest if shit really hits the fan, that
Yeah.
you immediately go into a fast, reset your immune system, and let's go from there. Because
Absolutely.
we
And to
don't
the
really, we
brothers and
really
sisters
don't
out
know
there
how
that work
bad this
really
is.
hard. Oh, I'm sorry, sister. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to address something that was in the chat. Black man is
Uh-huh.
is a farmer. He works on a farm.
Mhm.
Fam, nobody's
Mhm.
telling you to fast. We understand our brothers and sisters that are engaged in huge amounts of physical labor. You hollering around hay bales for cows and stuff like that. You need your resources, right? But in those times and spaces when maybe the stress is getting to you, fam, consider missing a meal or two, right? It just helps kind of clear your head. The hunger kind of focuses you a little bit, clears your head, and allows you to get kind of a mental reset. So even if you're a hardworking cat and you need your resources, we understand that. But consider missing maybe a meal, like go to bed one night and don't eat dinner and just let your body rest the whole night. You know what I'm saying? You'd be
Right.
surprised at how beneficial it is.
Yeah, everybody's going to have to make a determination for themselves. All I'm saying is that if you don't know much about it, to definitely start researching these things so that you can get an even playing field and knowledge for yourself to realize if you want to do this or not. But there's scientific proof that this resets your immune system. It makes you healthier if you can, if you do it long term. I mean, somebody in the chat said they did a 40-day fast, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, there's been people that have gone like 300 and some odd days without food. Of
Yep.
course, they were grossly overweight, and it was an experiment, right?
Yeah, yeah, medical
But they
fast
did it,
or at least a
right?
year if you're like extremely obese and you're doing a medical fast to lose weight, a medically supervised water fast for a year with
Mhm.
adequate vitamin
Mhm.
supplementation will drop that weight off you like nobody's business. Let me tell you.
Oh, oh yeah, and in this context, we're not even talking about losing a couple of pounds so I can look fine. It's not even like that.
Yeah.
We are into some serious times right now. We don't know what this virus is going to do, and a lot of people are acting like it's lackadaisical because it really hasn't hit us yet. But society will change overnight if this is what we feel like this is.
Fam, I'm
And
gonna
a
tell
lot of
you,
people,
the last major pandemic that the world had affected the world so damn bad that people argue that it was one of the causes of World War II. The
was
Spanish
that the was that
influenza
the
pandemic of
mhm
1917 through
18?
1919 killed
Yeah,
millions of people. Fam, is we're not fear mongering to tell you that you should start to prepare. You should start to prepare for major shifts. Now, did the world come to an end? No, it didn't. But did shit get
no,
affected? Absolutely, it did. Was there major effects across the globe? Yes, there were. And that's why we need to have balanced, real conversations about this stuff.
right. And look, in 2020, it's going to affect us differently. 100 years ago, we were living a different way. We were
Yep,
not dependent on technology. We were not dependent on Walmart to get our groceries.
yep.
We were not dependent on the pharmaceutical industry to provide our medicines. We lived a totally different way. Our forefathers were farmers, right? They knew the land. Half of us don't even have gardens anymore. I don't
That's
even have it
facts.
myself. You know, we need to get back. My mother, God bless her soul, she's still living. My mother still cans till this day. Some people don't even know what canning is. Like,
Yep.
what's that?
My mother
Well, you ever seen
cans.
those glass? Yeah, you
My
ever
mother
seen those
cans,
glass
and she's
jars?
got a
Full,
big ass
right.
garden too. My baby brother, may he rest with our ancestors. My baby brother, before he passed away, built my mother three big ass raised beds that she gardens
Mm-hmm.
out of every year. She composts. Like, fam, see, here's the crazy part.
We could,
If we have
right.
what we have now, right? Because look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that the advancements in health technology and stuff like that isn't benefit. You see what I'm saying? That isn't a
Mm-hmm.
benefit to us. It is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like being able to go
Definitely.
and get medicine from the fucking pharmacy and so on and so forth. I'm not anti-science, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? But with the advancements that we have, let's not leave what we had, right? Don't throw the baby that we had out with the bathwater. Don't act like that our ancestors and our forebears didn't understand some shit. Like they understood before everybody started talking about, carbs is bad and this, that, and the third. Our folks understood that shit back in the day when they was farmers. They talked
Yep.
about you don't want to eat a lot of bread, you don't want to eat a lot of pasta, right? Because you end up with what they used to call it back in the day. You used to call it sugar, right? They used to call
Yes.
diabetes
Yes.
sugar, right? You eat a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, you end up with sugar. They knew back in the day that a high carb ass diet was killing black folk. But see,
Yep.
we got to slipping, right? Thinking, hey, McDonald's and Burger King and this, that, and food is $2 and we can feed everybody in the house, but we left something behind. You
Well,
see what I'm saying?
my thought, I'm not even going to get into my thoughts about, the food industry and how, they're working with the pharmaceutical industry basically to keep us diseased and medicine ridden for their profit. I'm not going to go there, but I did. Uh, but one thing, and I'm not going to keep you on the phone because I want to let, other people get in. in terms of that 1918 Spanish influenza, I remember coming across it was a documentary on TV, and I didn't even catch all of it. But what I did catch, like, stayed with me for years and years. So the researchers were going around and getting the stories of the people that survived this this particular pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And what they came across is that, if I'm remembering correctly, is that they noticed that a lot of them that had did this seemed to, and their families, get through this unscathed, right? So they said that what they did is that they found that they would take onions, right, and just cut them in half, cut them in fours, put them in a bowl, I guess like a little water, and like just place them in various places like throughout the house. And so from what I understand, like the researchers, they ended up, I guess like in some way being able to test the onions. I mean, I don't know how how long after the pandemic they did this, but imagine going through this. You'll probably keep doing it even after after it ceases. So they tested the onions, and they found that the actual virus was in the onions, was trapped in the onions, but nobody in the house was affected with the virus, right?
There you
so it's
go.
Like the onion absorbed the virus before it can even get to the people. And they're contributing that may be one of the reasons that they did, get through this unscathed.
I'm telling you, alliums, right? The onions, garlics, leeks, stuff like that, they're amazing.
Right. And of course, all of this is anecdotal, but I'll leave it at this. All those stories that we thought we were just listening to our parents or our grandparents mumbling mumbo jumbo, right? Or telling us something and it's like, oh, mama, oh, daddy, oh, granny, whatever. Start bringing up and trying to remember those stories.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were very well telling us something that we need to know at this time and date.
That's what I'm stressing. You got ancestors that's living right now, 90, 90, 100 years old, but you ain't gonna listen to them when they talk about stuff you can do for your health and to be health. That don't make no sense to me. You want to be rich, you don't argue with a rich man. You want to live to be a nice, ripe ass old age. Talk to somebody who's living to be a nice, ripe ass old age.
Right, because if they're still here, you got to realize they're spanning that generation that knows exactly how it was, right? And that generation that thinks that maybe it really wasn't like that, right? Which is us. But we know better. But there's still people within our group of generation that, have, for lack of a better word, maybe convince ourselves that we're not living in something that we're living in. Like it's not.
No, I know I know exactly what you're talking about. I just had to check somebody today talking about that we need to get our boomer forebears in line, like they dogs or something. I'm like, fam, do you even know how you sound? Like,
well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not about to talk to my mama crazy, and I'm 42,
but my point is that you have people who are sitting here saying that we as a tribe need to be trying to convince each other of different things, right? Different strategies, different tactics, and things like that on how to operate, maneuver through the world, right? Okay,
well,
I'm with that. No, I'm with that.
That's where they're getting it wrong, because if they knew better, they would know that there's no convincing nobody in the world. People don't get convinced. You present them with information and they make up their own mind.
Right. And not only that, sister, but even if you are trying to be convincing, what's the old saying our ancestors used to tell us? You catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. Sometimes you don't need to be so salty, so abrasive, so disrespectful, right? If you might have a better way, but your attitude, the way you approach folk will push people away from a way that's good, right? You know, Paul
Well,
said,
at this point, go ahead.
oh, I
Go
was just
ahead.
going to say, I remember I was reading the Bible. Paul said, all things are permitted, but not everything edifies. Because if through your behavior you cause your brother or sister to stumble, then your behavior is sinful, regardless of whether you know, in a good place, a good headspace, or whatever the case may be. It's not just your life. Your life has to edify other people. It has to lift them up too. And if you're not lifting up other people, then you're committing wrongs. It don't matter how right you are.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? Big part of our problem is that we haven't even mastered ourselves as individuals. So we try and go around and master like everybody else because we can't face the fact that we haven't even mastered ourselves. We haven't mastered our emotions, when to act and react, and what those reactions and will be.
Yeah.
Like we don't understand that we actually get to choose from a buffet of emotions and reactions. And it's really about, choosing the right one for the appropriate time.
Exactly.
There's a time to be outraged, but at the same time, if you're like cannibalizing your group, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You
How
don't
you be an
even realize
activist and you eating your own? That don't make sense.
Exactly. You're going to look around and be like, well, I ate up everybody.
But I'm right, though. Right?
Right.
Like you sitting there, you right about everything, and you right by your damn self. Make that make sense to me. You feel me? Like I can accept a little bit of flaws. I can accept that some people don't see things the way I see it, or whatever the case may be. Look, as long as I got peace with them, I can always have an opportunity to to influence them, to show them, right? If I'm right, I can show them that I'm right. I don't have to sit there and browbeat them and tell them, y'all the reason why niggas is dead. I'm sick of all that. Like if you right, if you got the truth with you, show it.
Hey, you know what? We always talk about grace, right? And I'm going to leave it at this, Mark. We always talk about grace, but grace is harder when nobody is showing you grace.
Yeah, it
right?
is. It is. It is. And I think that's, if you want to talk about one of the key problems that I think exists, whether it's economic, whether it's politics, whether we talking about anything, is that we as a tribe have not yet learned the power of grace with each other. Right? That love. When you call in, sister, I actually was genuinely happy to hear you. Like you, I don't know if I'm expressing it well enough, but like I'm telling you my emotions. My emotion was my sister called me. My day can't get any better. The grace was instant, right? And I can't run out of it. That's the best part. It don't cost me nothing, but it brings us so much. Fam, if we are a tribe that have been through what we've been through, then grace should be the very first thing that's on the menu. That should be served up on a silver platter to every one of our tribes people that we run across at any given point. Grace. It should be the first thing that's lifted up there, regardless of the circumstances.
And it's like we know that everybody absolutely knows that, and they may not know what they're thinking about is grace, right? But they absolutely know that because it's in our DNA to know it, right? But it comes with healing thyself.
Agreed.
Like if they're not starting like to face the truth of what we're facing in this particular reality, right? If you're not ready to face that, then you're always going to be looking to the outside to either ridicule or validate or do something.
Yep, I agree.
Until we start to like master ourselves, when we master ourselves, we'll be able to more easily give grace to others. Whether
but you know what, though, sister,
that requires that person or not.
That requires a narrative that empowers us individually. right? See, one problem that I've seen recently is that we have all these different movements and everybody is trying to strengthen the movements, but they don't realize that movements, like bodies, are composed of cells. If your cells are weak and deficient, if they're not empowered, no body that you put together from that is going to be effectual, right? We have to find a balance between strengthening our organizations around our common goals and interests and so on and so forth, and empowering our individual brothers and sisters, our individual tribes people. Because without that balance, what we do is continually compose corporate bodies of weakness that will ultimately be decimated.
We have to, like, everybody has to, like, get their back straightened up and ready. Because if you ain't ready for whatever is about to come, then you ain't ready.
Facts.
And what people got to realize, everybody has their role. So it's like the heart getting mad at the lung for breathing, and the lung getting mad at the heart for pumping. But we all need to be together doing our particular parts, but working as one, so that we can get whatever we got to do done, not attacking each other, right?
That's right.
So it's just, it's crazy to me.
That's right.
So,
Sister, you hit it on the barrel head. Hey, I appreciate your contribution. Don't you hesitate to call in, okay? Don't let this be the last time. I will come find you.
Well, this is my little spot for a minute now. I'm like, oh, so they thinking over here. I like it.
Hey, you know what? I tell people all the time, I'm fortunate to have the best group of subscribers on YouTube. Like, I can't brag about y'all enough, man. Seriously, y'all inspire me. Y'all inspire me.
Like attracts like. So we just, we mob, we don't just mob out in the chat, mob out on the live, and just, enjoy each other's company, and everybody has something to contribute. So for those, as a matter of fact, Mark, this is my first time ever calling into a show at all, right?
Oh, snap.
But,
well, you, like I said, this can't be your last, because you got skills with it.
But I want to encourage, thank you. But I want to encourage the chat. If you have something to say, and it may not come in one or two lines in the chat, y'all need to call in. We need to hear your voice. We need to hear your perspective, because that's how we get strong.
That's right.
So on that note, I'm going to go. I'm going to pop back into the chat, and I'm going to see what else everybody else talking about.
Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you again for your contribution.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Peace. That's how, see, fam, who's bugging over here? Who's stressed out over here? Who's like, oh Lord, it's the coronavirus, what is we gonna do? That ain't us. Why? Because we talking. Because we got the knowledge. Ain't nobody fear mongering over here. We telling the truth about it, what we understand the truth to be, right? Could it be a conspiracy that somebody made it in the lab? Yeah, sure. But regardless of whether or not that's the case, who cares? We still got to face it, right? And so if we got to face it, let's talk about what solutions we can bring to the table for each other. You feel me? What things that we can do to bring help and healing and grace and love, not fear. The last thing I want is my people to be sitting here afraid. Now, before I take my next call, so this is a hint. Don't call in yet, because I can only take one call at a time. Somebody asked, did I mention personal protective equipment, or PPE? And I did not. And there's a reason why. Now, I would recommend that you do your due diligence. However, there have been signs that because much of the PPE that is available for us here in the United States was made in China, that people that might have been affected with coronavirus also responsible for putting together some of the PPE. Now, it only takes one mask that didn't meet snuff, that has particles of coronavirus in it, to infect somebody. Do I think masks can be effective? Yes, I do. And if you can get your hands on masks from a source that you can trust, they could be beneficial. But I think that we need to focus on prophylaxis. Let's keep ourselves healthy. And let's keep ourselves up, right? Let's keep our minds positive. Let's keep our focus on doing good behaviors. Wash your hands. Make sure you clean your environment. And this, that, and the third, right? Jacqueline said, I'm getting ready to go deep in debt, so I won't have time to do the Corona thing. I hear you, sister. I hear you, right? Shit, I tell you all the time, I'm unemployed, right? I tried to do my best to figure it out and to give y'all the resources to help you figure it out, which is why my list of resources wasn't a bunch of get MREs, get this, get that. No, some of us can't call that. But the last time I checked when I went to the store, even up here in, the Pacific Northwest where everything's higher than camel ass, a bag of beans was still $1.25 for a pound of beans. You feel me? Right? So, let's do what we can do. Nobody's gonna get browbeaten over here. Nobody's gonna get browbeaten over here for not doing. Adric, I will say this. It is my concern. I do say that masks can be effective. I do believe that PPE is effective, right? If you can get your hands on PPE from a source that you can trust, get it and use it, right? I did mention that, Adric. I'm not saying don't use masks. I'm saying that if you can't get them or if you have concerns about them, there are other methods of prophylaxis that can be helpful too as well. So I hope that clarifies, Adric, what I'm talking about. Use PPE if you can get it. If you can get it from a source where you know everything is straight, everything's good, use it. It is definitely going to be beneficial. If you cannot, for whatever reason, get masks, like if you can't afford them and stuff like that, still practice on washing your hands. Practice basic, proper hygiene, right? Clean up the areas around you. Make sure that you're using adequate, cleaning methods in your environment. At work, make sure you're, spraying your desk down with stuff that's known to destroy the coronavirus around, as well as other stuff like Lysol. Use antibacterial wipes. Keep you some hand solution, things like that, right? There are other methods and means of prophylaxis along with masks that will be hugely helpful and hugely effective. Okay? So I hope that addresses the PPE situation. If you got masks and you can get your hands on them, use them. They're hugely effective. Hugely effective. Okay? If you cannot, for whatever reason, get them, though, practice all of your basic hygiene and basic, basic hand washing and things like that. That's going to work out a treat. All right? 425-296-1980. Is the number. Yeah, thank you, Adric. I'm pro-science, fam. Trust me, I know masks work. I have my own personal concerns about the supply chains coming from China, but those are my personal concerns. You're not obligated to think that way. And if you can get your hands on a source of masks that will provide prophylaxis, use them. If you only have masks from China in an emergency, how do you sterilize them or just don't use them? See, I probably should not have said what I said because now I feel responsible for addressing that, Kenneth. I'm going to say that most masks go through a process of sterilization prior to shipping from the factory. So the vast majority of them, like 99.9999% of them, I'm being honest here, it just isn't an issue. I think perhaps my concern is irrational, which is why I'm saying don't be obligated by what I'm saying, right? Because I know medical equipment and DME and stuff like that, medical equipment, most of that stuff is sterilized before it leaves the factory and it's a non-issue. But for those idiots like myself that are concerned about something coming from China, maybe spray the mask down with some Lysol and then let it sit to get out the aerosols and the volatiles, so that the masks are straight. No, hey, Adric, I actually am glad you did, fam, because like I said something irresponsible. I can make mistakes. That was probably irresponsible. That's my concern, but I didn't need to share that per se, right? You know what I mean? Because to be honest, now that I'm using my thinking, rational mind, knowing how many medical equipment is manufactured, the odds are. Now I've seen stories that say that there are concerns about some medical equipment and the supply chains coming from China. And I think that some of those stories might have some degree of credence. That being said, that's my opinion. I don't have no evidence. You ain't bound by that. Don't follow that. Do your due diligence. Okay? 425-296-1980 is the number, fam. Let's discuss the elephant in the room, the virus in the room. So, there are people who say that it's a boo game. I say that when you got people sick and dying, you can be pretty much assured it's not a boo game. You don't get multiple reports all over the globe of people dying from this shit and think that it's just made up false fake news. The coordination it would take for that to be fake news, while it's possible, I don't think it's anywhere near likely. Caller from 469 is your man, Mark Black. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
This is Morgan Brown from Texas.
What's good, fam?
This is exciting. I get to talk to you.
Hey, man, I'm probably more excited than you, man. I'm glad you called in, fam. Welcome to the broadcast. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, man. I sure appreciate you, man. Yeah, but it was very exciting because what I was thinking about was when they was doing the Ebola virus scare, and they was talking about how bad the Ebola virus was over in Africa, and then it came out that they was putting the people on IVs and giving them fluids, and they was recovering, and basically they was really dying from dehydration and not being able to keep anything on their stomach, vomiting and diarrhea and stuff, and they was really dying from dehydration, and they was it's the Ebola virus, and it was no cure. It was no cure, and all they needed was some, just to be hydrated.
Now, I mean, fam, to be fair, the Ebola virus is a thing, but yes, unfortunately, in some of the more poor areas of the world, the way that dysentery and other waterborne illnesses might present and things like that could have, they could replicate symptoms that you would see in early stage Ebola infection and things like that. And then it would make sense that some bad news would get out from a rural area that, hey, there might be a possible outbreak and things like that. One of the things that I would like for you to consider, brother, as well as everybody, right, just in general, is to try as best we're able to deal with the what's that we kind of have in front of us, but suspend judgment about them for a while. And the reason why I say that is because we all know that fake news is a thing, right? People get bad news all the time, okay? They just get told bad shit, okay? But what happens sometimes is that when that bad news or that false news hits us in a place where we have fears or we have concerns, we tend to give it a little bit more credence than what it might actually warrant, right? And so we'll be making preparations for something that, while it's possible, isn't necessarily highly likely, if that makes any sense, right? So I don't want us to think that every time there's some bad news or some false news about a scare of some sort, that any subsequent news about something else is in the same line, because that's irresponsible, right? We have to have our evidence before we make judgments about what's going on, right? We can still address what we think might be happening, right? So do your due diligence, do your actions, but suspend your judgment until you have more information, if that makes sense. You get me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, fam. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were kind of on the same sheet of music. You feel me?
For sure. Yeah. It just, how you get, it's like you said, so much false news, so much false information, and then you like, wow, well, what is it? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, they count on your fear, especially ours as Black people. They count on us being fearful. There's a reason why historically in this country has worked overtime to keep us ignorant of things. Like when Black people, for the most part, hear about a new disease, well, how many of us, let's keep it a full ass buck, how many of us have studied virology? How many of us have studied basic biology, right? How cells
Right.
replicate and things like that, right? And so on and so forth,
Right.
right? So when they present this information to us, Black people are left usually with a knowledge base that is inadequate to meeting the circumstance that they're presenting us with. So all that leaves us is reaction. All that leaves us is fear, right? So in those particular circumstances, I believe that the key for us as Black people in this country is to focus on buttressing our personal as well as our collective knowledge base on a wide range of topics. We need to have brothers and sisters that we can trust to speak intelligibly on things. So when Brother Black says, hey, given the viral loads and the fatality rates and things like that, while this is pandemic and it's going to cause problems, it's not the end of the world. You can say, whew, okay, Brother Black kind of knows what he's talking about in this particular matter. I feel better, right? So even if you don't
Right.
necessarily understand it, right, it puts you back in a headspace where you can respond rather than react. You see where I'm coming from, fam?
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
If you need to ask a question, ask a question. We built for this. Go ahead, fam.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just it's it's like just the whole concept of all the different diseases and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
all the you hear all the stories, about the or the AIDS virus, and then the new improved version of the AIDS virus.
Mm-hmm.
The flu is killing so many people,
Yep.
and there's so many different versions of the flu, and then they forcing nurses to take the flu virus, and they force these people are being forced to take this. You hear about these females that work at these hospitals and stuff, and they mandating it that if they want to keep their jobs, they have to take this, and it's like, because like they start finding out that the nurses are like, I'm not taking that, they
Well,
giving
I
it to the
mean,
patients, but they not taking it.
there's issues that there's some issues that are bigger kind of than this topic, right? Bigger than this particular issue, because one of the things that we have amongst our people that is really unfortunate is we have, for lack of a better way to say it, an anti-intellectual bias, right? We don't tend see, like, the problem is that Black folks know that the media and stuff is capable of lying to us. We know that better than anybody. So we tend to automatically discount pronouncements of things, right? Which in some cases is survival behavior. It makes sense to just not take first, the first flush of information that somebody's putting out there, you know what I'm saying, at face value. That, right? Like, that
Right.
makes sense. But the problem is that there are explanations for things that we don't accept for various reasons. I'll give you a case in point. There are people
Okay.
among us who are very spiritual and religious people. So when I talk to
Right.
them about evolution, I lose them because they don't believe in evolution, even though all of the scientific evidence that surrounds the topic from various scientific fields, right? From biology, from chemistry, from you name it, right? Lends a whole bunch of evidence to this being the truth of the matter, right? It explains why there's so many different types of flu viruses and things like that, right? You feel me? It explains why a virus that was in one creature can change and appear in another creature. But if you don't accept that as an explanation, then you're still left with trying to figure out how this shit is supposed to go down. And so, yeah, I mean, you have people that unfortunately are that go through circumstances. For example, I'll give you a case in point. My uncle used to serve in the army. He served shortly after Vietnam, and he
Right.
talked about how they gave him different shots and treatments and stuff like that that
Yeah.
made him sick.
Inoculations and stuff.
Right
Yeah.
now, am I discounting my uncle's experience? Hell no, not at all. And do I know for a fact that the military is usually the first ones they try new shit out on? That's part of the thing you end up dealing with when you sign your ass on the dotted line. Trust me, I know, I'm a vet, right? I knew when I
Right.
went through that line in boot camp, they was injecting me with something. As to what it was, they told me what they said it was. I don't know to this day what the hell it was, right? So
Right.
that is what it is, right? But my point is that in spite of those things, that does not preclude certain data from being true. Meaning that in spite of my uncle's experience, my own experience, Brother Blackman's a veteran. He took some bad tablets. We know now that Gulf War syndrome was probably likely caused by the use of depleted uranium munitions and the dust and shit from that and so on and so forth, with the combination of the different vaccines and things that we're taking. We know these stuff. We know this stuff now. But that does not mean that the underlying science is bad. It just means that that particular implementation of it or that particular use of that information was not good, right? And I think we need to learn how to make that differentiation. Simply because somebody says, hey, well, I was in an area and they saying that it was monkeys. It came from monkeys. Well, yeah, but we have mechanisms that describe how viruses and bacteria can evolve over time to go from one species to another one, simply because we might have discounted, oh, it didn't come from monkeys, it came from somewhere else, doesn't mean that we don't have an explanation for a mechanism of how that could work out, right? You see what I'm saying? And that's what I kind of want to make it known to people, right? As brothers and sisters, it is imperative that we expand our knowledge base individually as well as collectively to encompass kind of what everybody else thinks to be true too. Not that everything that everybody else thinks is true, but if people are operating from a basis that evolution is true and they're doing different experiments or doing different things, how do you know what the hell they're doing? If you don't accept that that's even a possibility, right, that that's even an explanation for anything, then you'll see certain things and you won't understand how the hell it happened. Meanwhile, everybody else that does accept that premise, right, that accepts, that understanding of things, has an explanation, and they're not fearful about it. They're not, they're not reacting, they're responding. That's all I'm saying, fam, is that the underlying stuff is true, but there can be negative implementations or negative implications of certain scientific knowledge being true. You feel me? That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, because the last thing I want to leave you in, fam, is a space where you not only not have the answers, but don't even know how you can get the answers based off of where you're at, right? That's the last thing. I mean, if you can't get the answers from your brother, that's fine. But I at least want to leave you equipped to get the answers.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because I'll be damned if it be me to do you harm. You know what I mean? I'll be damned.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, keep on talking, fam. The floor is yours. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hog the mic, man.
No. You breaking it down. You make a lot of sense because you hear about so many things that really, like, we hear about more diseases that really affect us. Bird flu. Every year is something new. This is like, I listen to like Dr. Neely Fuller and stuff like that, and you hear him talk about that. They just keep confusion going. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
That's
most
kind of what they
definitely,
do.
right? But see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Dr. Neely would also tell you that knowledge dispels confusion, right? When you have facts, you don't have confusion, right? So whenever you find yourself in a place of confusion, that's a sign that you need to get more data. You
Right.
need to get more
Right. Exactly.
information, right? Now, what this means is that you have to look at a multitude of sources. You have to buttress your knowledge base, meaning that you have to have some things that you just accept are true, right? That you know are true. And you have to be able to make
Right.
correlations between what you understand to be true, right? With the
Right.
data that you have available, and then using your discernment, figure out some answers that allow you to navigate, that allow you to be able to maneuver. That's what that means. You feel me? Right? Confusion
Right.
always exists when you have conflict between what you know or don't know and what information is available. So you get more
Right.
information and you clarify, you basically resolve the confusion. Then you can maneuver.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Absolutely, fam.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I sure appreciate
Hey,
it.
no, man, the honor is mine. Trust me. Don't hesitate to call in. Don't hesitate to ask questions. We don't do that. There's stupid questions over here. Nah, my people deserve to know the best information that we can all gather. And if that means you can get it from me, great. If I have to go get it from a source and give it to us, great. I don't care. No dumb questions. Only not asking questions are dumb. Yeah, if you don't ask questions, that's fucking dumb.
Already.
All right, fam. Hey, I appreciate you,
Thanks,
fam.
man.
Thanks so much for your call, man.
All right. You have a good night.
I will, brother. To you. Peace. Fam, I'm gonna start to wrap it up because it's getting towards that time. But I just want to say thank you to everybody. I know we didn't have the huge amount of views that we normally have. Oh crap. Okay, I'll take one more call. Let's do it. Caller from 860. It's your man Mark Black. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hey, what up, brother Marcus? Me, bro, want to check in. You know, I was listening to this show. I
Oh,
listened
hey,
to
what's
some of
good,
it.
fam?
Yeah, man. I don't understand your slang out on the West Coast. What does slap mean? I didn't get. I didn't know what it meant. I'm not trying to struggle or anything like that. But I just didn't know what you meant. I took it as that was West Coast slang or something.
Yeah, I'm definitely up on the West Coast, fam.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yo, okay. Now to bring up to speed, that coronavirus situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny when it first broke. I was getting emails and stuff from my job about it, and they still continue, because I do security jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're a big contractor for government employment and all that other nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it broke, I knew that it was really serious just by the tone of the emails that were sent out
Exactly.
and the update. And it got more serious and more serious and more serious to the point where I knew that it was more than what it was being advertised.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fam, look, I'm going to keep it honest with you. It's a pandemic in everything but name. That, to me, in my humble opinion, is clear. There are things that we can do to prepare for the knock-on effects that come with a pandemic, which is why we talked about the situation and address some of the things that we can do individually as well as, as a collective, by just making sure that we stay positive, we stay up on information, that we get our information from sources we can trust and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I put it like this. America always makes it clear when something is more than what they're just saying, because they can't help it, right? I always say that there's no secrets in white supremacy, right? They can't help but to tell it. You feel me? They can't help but to tell the secrets. So there's no secrets, right? We just have to use our discernment and we have to pay attention. They're not going to just give us the information, but they are going to tell it, right? And so, this thing is a little bit more serious than they'd like to let on. It's going to have some effects on the global economy, on global supply chains, on fatalities, and a whole host of other things that we're waiting to see what these effects will be. But while we're waiting, there are things that we can do to make sure that we're straight. And so I wanted to make sure that I contributed that.
Okay, I also did I was in and out of the show because I was watching another show as well, but I didn't know if anybody ran across the article that Bill Gates was making hypotheticals about Africa, saying how they was going to pick up the coronavirus and everything. Like, what was your take on that?
My take on it is this: I've heard the different things surrounding Bill Gates and this, that, and the third. I will say this: the fact is that it is not beyond the realms of possibility for Africans to be being used as carriers or an experimental base for different things or whatever the case may be. I think that Africa really needs to look hard at the aid that they accept, because one thing you learn as being a Black American, nothing from white folks come free. Everything always has a cost. And I think that Africa, all 54 nations as a collective, needs to look long and hard about the aid that they accept, about the people they believe are on their team, about the resources that are being thrown at them, because when it comes to Africa, sometimes all money isn't good money. And they pick the wrong choice. They make the wrong openings for the wrong group of people, and you see ill shit happen all the time there. Right, so that's what I think about it.
Okay, I'm glad that you and I want to sidebar to something else real quick.
Please.
Something else that Boyce said on the other channel that was very interesting. Where in regards to Black people in business and how we view business more like charity instead of actually something that's wealth creation and business, which is also like her judge when it comes to institutions that we need to protect ourselves. Situations like that.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Boyce be talking out his ass. I don't buy that. Black people do business like everybody else does business. Now, there's some specific issues that affects Black businesses. For example, undercapitalization, lack of people frequenting or utilizing their services and things like that due to discrimination, prejudice, and so on and so forth. But I get tired of people talking about Black business people and Black entrepreneurs like we don't know how the fuck the game goes. Black entrepreneurs understand precisely how to do business like everybody else. He says stuff like that because it serves his interests, right? He doesn't want to have to present himself out there as a business owner that actually has to provide, services and stuff like that. So what he does is he talks down on Black businesses and holds himself out as the authority on Black business. But Boyce Watkins was not the first Black business owner. He will not be the last. Black business owners have a long and hallowed tradition of doing great fucking businesses, providing great products and great services, but they have particular obstacles that they have to face that no one else has to face. If he's saying that, then he's talking sense. If he's saying anything else, he's talking out of his ass. And that's as simple as that. That's my take on it. I've listened to Boyce for years, and I find nothing that he says to be anything more than at best platitudes, meaning stuff that we all could kind of figure out just by studying the nature of business and things like that. And at worst, it's self-serving and only goes to try to fatten his own pockets rather than trying to actually expound true business knowledge for Black entrepreneurs and aspiring Black entrepreneurs. There's nothing Boyce will give you that won't come with a cost, whether it's a cost of your dignity, whether it's a cost out of your pockets, or whatever the case may be. But when you fuck with him, you're going to pay something.
All right. Those are some of the things I wanted to bring up. And also, I noticed that you brought up food, which is a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Because going up to the UN and seeing that, they go hand in hand.
Yep.
The UN, the WHO, World Health Organization, a couple other those shadowy organizations as well. I not to call names, but yeah, they definitely play a heavy role into what's going on right now.
Of course they do. They're the world powers. They're going to play a role. Of course. That's why I went to the source for our information. One of the first things that we discussed today was from the WHO, right? And we went
Yeah,
over the
I see
statement
that.
given by the Director General of the WHO, because of course the UN in anything that is potentially a pandemic is going to play a role across the world. It makes sense to go right to the horse's mouth rather than take our information secondhand from maybe the CDC or from somebody who's claiming to be a doctor on YouTube or some shit, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, those are a couple of things I wanted to call in and check in about. And say thanks, man. Always supporting. I'll holler at you in a minute.
Oh man, it's a pleasure, fam. You always welcome, man. Stay easy, stay up, stay positive, and know that we gonna get through whatever comes down the pipe.
Amen. Yeah, you know it.
Yes, sir. Peace. Great call, fam. Great call. That's the one I want to finish on. Brother called and said, hey, I just want to get some clarity. You know, ain't nothing wrong with asking questions, fam. We don't know all this shit that's going to go down. Even those of us who are paying attention to this thing, the information that we're getting changes from moment to moment, right? Don't be surprised if maybe I put up a little small video saying that I learned something else about the situation and giving some additional information for you, fam. Each one, reach one, teach one, right? Like iron sharpens iron. There's nothing wrong with treating your brother and sister to grace and charity. Like I said, Boyce be talking out his ass. If I'm a black business owner, I'm not going to necessarily operate like a charity, but I am going to show grace to my consumer base. I'm going to show grace to my customer base. Knowing that I might be dealing with black folk who are trying to support me, I'm going to give them the best service I can give them. I'm going to give them the best care that I can give them. And if I'm constrained by capital and stuff like that, I'm going to let them know, hey, fam, I know that I wish I had a better selection for you. But right now, I'm trying to come up so that I can provide you that better selection. So please ride with your man until I get there. That's not charity. That's not charity at all, to let your customer base know, hey, I need your support so that I can be able to better provide you with what you need. That's not charity. So hell yeah. Boyce is talking out his ass, as per usual. Fam, I love y'all all. I'm hungry. I'm old. I'm tired. I hope that today I was able to give you guys some information that helps soothe your soul, to help you to be calm in spirit. This thing is bigger than what the American government and everybody else is trying to let us own about, right? This is a worldwide thing, and we need to be clear on that. Is it the end of the world as we know it? No, it's not the zombie virus, okay? It's not the equivalent of Chicxulub, you know, the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs and shit like that, right? It's not any of that, but it is going to be world affecting. It's going to be life altering, especially in the short term, but possibly in the long term. And now I gave us some tools and resources to be able to help us to better understand what we can do. Knowledge dispels fear. So fam, with that, it's been my pleasure as always as your brother and one who loves you to provide this for you. And so as always, I leave you all with well wishes until I see you again this Saturday, right? I want to wish you all love, peace, prosperity, and power, real power to our people.